That one was a little more crisp this time, I think. Hear that lid. We are here for a jar of salsa for the casual academic. Once again, it is Catherine and Christina.
Hi, I'm Catherine.
And I'm Christina. And today with us we have our good pal, Andre.
Hey.
Hey, buddy.
Wait.
So we've decided for our new salsa, before Andre digs right in, we got with us this time a 3-bean with roasted corn salsa that Andre just went right in.
Digging right in. All right.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
The sound it made when it opened was better.
The sound that it made when it opened was better.
Can you taste the sound in every bite?
Not exactly.
What do you
Tell us
taste?
what you're tasting.
Do you taste 3 beans? Name them.
I can tell you exactly what beans there are once I have to fart.
Okay.
Good.
All right. We'll just be waiting on that.
All right.
You want to talk about the brand? This is a store brand, right?
Yes, it is. We got this at ShopRite. It is their special edition of salsas. There are 30 calories per serving, and there is no saturated fat, and there's only 1 gram of sugar per serving, too.
A serving is, 2 tablespoons?
It is 2 tablespoons, and we will be having much more than 1 serving each. Catherine, would you like to do the honor of going over the ingredients again?
This has become my thing.
I will say, there are also a variety of vegetables on the label as well, Catherine.
It's not as visually appealing on the label, though. It seems like some stock footage of vegetables. I do see the 3 beans. I like that. I can't name beans. I don't have my bean Pokedex here.
If I could be frank, it honestly looks like a pig threw up in it.
A pig threw up in it?
Yeah.
In the salsa or on the image?
The salsa is pig vomit.
It doesn't taste like pig vomit, does it?
You've tasted pig vomit?
No.
I haven't.
I'm going.
Well, if you use your imagination, if you were to imagine the taste of pig vomit, I'm assuming it doesn't taste like salsa.
It probably tastes like chitlins.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I kind of like it.
I haven't tried it yet. I'm not done analyzing this art. There's corn on here. It looks like a plum tomato, a jalapeno, and of course the 3 beans. Very small. The text takes up the most of it. It is. It says it's a medium salsa, so it's a little spicier than what we were dealing with last time.
I was just going to say, there's a little bit of a kick to it.
Okay. Refrigerate after opening. Oh, here we go. Here's their description. It's and there's a little bit larger image. Nice. Okay.
That's what she said.
A medium salsa using a harmony of black, kidney, and pinto beans, blended with mild chilies, onions, and sweet roasted corn for that Southwest flavor. No punctuation there at the end. I guess that means the salsa goes on, lives with us forever in our hearts and in our bellies and our gut flora.
Well, so, yeah, I mean, the evanescence of it is, sort of in once you fart, it's out there. So yeah, it does go on
into the atmosphere.
Yeah,
I will say, the biggest, brightest color I think is the yellow corn.
The biggest color?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you look at it, what colors do you see in there? That nice prismatic melange.
Like the brightest color. You got some bright red peppers in there. Again.
The bright corn looks like, is that an onion or garlic? Or
God.
Something white.
I'm going to go with garlic, which means we're going to smell great tonight.
All right. Good thing that you can't hear a smell.
I was just going to say, I would like to say that our viewers or listeners are lucky because they will not be able to smell us.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go kiss some vampires when we're done.
And then take over the world.
That's good. I like it.
All right, Catherine, give me the lowdown. Don't just tell me you like it.
The lowdown. Okay.
The down low, not the low down. Oh, my God.
Well, when you first bite into it, there's a sweet taste, and then the sweet kind of fades away gradually into this kind of crackling spiciness. Not crackling like Pop Rocks, but like little bursts of spiciness that kind of linger on your tongue, but not in a way that it's painful. It's like, oh gosh, I have to drink milk. I actually really like it.
No, I like it too.
So you like pig's vomit?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. So I would say.
I didn't do the ingredients.
Do the ingredients?
After all that fanfare, I got caught up.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, while she's looking at the ingredients, I will tell you that if you are more of a mild fan, I would say this would be like a half a step up for you. I do think that it would be a crowd favorite, but there is a little teeny tiny bit of a kick in it. So if you are shy to spice, I would prepare yourself a little bit.
See, I tend to be a mild fan. I am pretty shy to spice, and I'm okay with it. I think it really is like, if you know somebody who's like, oh, I only like mild salsa, this might be a thing to be like, no, wait, you just try this. Just try this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like a gateway salsa to something a little more spicy, a little more substantial. All right, as for the ingredients, I see here we have diced tomatoes, tomato puree, roasted corn, kidney beans, red and green bell peppers, pinto beans, and black beans. So there's the three beans, kidney, pinto, and black. Apple cider vinegar, onions, jalapeno peppers, salt, dried cane syrup, cilantro, and 1% or less of basil, dried garlic, so that might have been garlic, spices, that could be anything, vinegar, sugar, natural flavors, and xanthan gum. So those are the ingredients. Pretty all natural. I mean, what you see is what you get. Except for maybe the xanthan gum and the dried cane syrup, but for the most part, you know everything that's in there.
I'm gonna rate it the same as we rated the last one.
Put that down there.
I don't remember what we rated the last one, but I know it was somewhere in the middle.
I like this one a little more than the last one.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'd rate this one higher.
Andre, what do you think? If you could rate it?
If I could rate it,
Yeah.
5 out of 5 farts.
Is that just for the beans, or
It's for everything.
are those farts of happiness, of approval?
Yeah, in some cultures that's a sign of what? Gratitude. Like, thanks for this.
Well,
So yeah.
speaking of cultures, let's dive right in.
Okay.
So we have
I'm black. Yeah.
our dear friend, our colleague, Andre Melvin Jones, here with us today. He is our first guest, our first official guest on A Jar of Salsa for the Casual Academic. When Catherine and I first started to plan this, we said from day one that you would be our first guest. So we're very happy to have you here.
Mm-hmm.
And the title for today's episode is Superheroes and Salsa. So before we dive into that, I would love for you to give our viewers a little bit of a bio about yourself, how you got to Kane, because Andre's our colleague from Kane, and now he is also a professor at Kane. If you would talk a little bit about that, your experience here, and how you got into superheroes.
Okay. So I'm a professor at Kane. I'm a lecturer at Kane, to be exact. I'll officially be a lecturer at Kane in a week. Before that, I was an adjunct. I'm getting signs to raise my voice.
You were GA in the writing center,
And
right?
I was a graduate assistant during grad school. And before that, I was just a regular old writing coach in the writing center. So I've come up. I've definitely come up, and I've hit a lot of different nodes and levels here at Kane. I teach writing. I teach composition. I taught a few upper class courses.
Like advanced composition.
Research in language and literacy or literature, and it's been great. It's been cool. I can't complain. It's not something I necessarily saw myself doing in my early 30s, but I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. So it's, in a way, I'm sort of I stumbled upon this, but I'm living a dream, in a way.
The dream.
Maybe not the dream, but a dream.
A dream that you have
Or
currently.
had or didn't have. Yeah, sure.
It's existing.
It's a dream.
Very cool. So now, tell us how you got the bio behind you and superheroes. How did this all start?
How did I get into superheroes?
Before Miles Morales.
Oh, so my father was into comics. He wasn't like an avid fan or anything like that, but he read comic books. I can't really say anything exact. I can't say anything with any kind of certitude as to how or when or what actually went down as when it comes to me following superheroes. But my dad watched Batman. He watched Superman. I'd watch it with him. We'd go to comic shops and buy comic books, and the rest is sort of history.
Did you ever
Yeah.
Pardon, sorry. In your travels, in your growing up, trying out all these different comics and coming across all these different superheroes,
Sure.
did you ever come across a superhero that can get rid of this stain? Because I just spilled salsa on myself.
Yeah. Tide.
Tide.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I
Um,
just felt like the readers.
the listeners.
I almost called them
We're
viewers.
calling them viewers,
Yeah.
readers. Y'all
Yeah.
are doing
I
everything.
felt like they should know that I was quiet because I was just kind of a little distraught about the salsa I spilled on myself. I don't have a napkin, so it's just going to sit here.
We
There you
here
go.
at A Jar of Salsa, AJOS, I've decided to call us
AJOS?
AJOS,
I like
Okay.
that. Sounds
are
Greek.
never prepared for anything. So we don't have AJOS sounds Greek.
It does.
We don't have napkins, but we do have chips and salsa.
Yep.
That's awesome. So moving forward, tell us about Miles Morales, the new Spider-Man, the up and coming, the first Black Spider-Man, the second Latino version of a Spider-Man, other than I believe it was Miguel O'Hara.
Oh, Miguel O'Hara, yeah.
Okay, so Miles Morales came in. Was it 2000?
2011, I think.
Okay. And I found that he was created by Brian Michael Bendis, who was the writer, and Sarah Pichelli, who was the artist behind it. And he was inspired by President Barack Obama and actor Donald Glover at the time.
Yeah, sure. I'm not the authority or like the expert on everything and anything Miles Morales, but Miles Morales is the Black Latino Spider-Man.
Well, you did your thesis, right?
I did my
master's
thesis. I did my thesis on Miles Morales.
He's not an expert; he's just a master.
Yeah, stop being modest. You presented about this at the 4 Cs, didn't you?
I did.
Well, the listeners want to know that.
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, I talked about Miles. My particular interest when it came to Miles was his language use. There's just been a lot of hubbub about diversity in the media, particularly with comic books and superheroes. And I just felt that there wasn't enough, or I felt that everyone's focus was sort of on the wrong things. That, it's not merely about, some of those superficial markers that sort of represent and reflect difference, but it's more so, or it needs to be more about, those less visible markers like language use, and what that says about a character, and the ways in which characters, or readers rather, are going to understand how a character is different. In a comic book is based off of how they look and how they speak, because you have images and you have text, and that's how we establish difference in a comic book.
So were you focused mostly on dialogue in the medium of a graphic novel or a comic? Is it mostly dialogue that you're seeing, or were you interested in, I guess, the things that Miles was saying, or the things that others were saying about him, or in any kind of textual exposition, how he was referred to or described?
As far as Miles' popularity and what people were saying about him, I think that whether people loved or hated him, Miles was popular, and he was going to be, as many people involved in the writing of the character have said, he's going to be the Spider-Man. For now, he's going to be Spider-Man. My interest was on his language, how he was being represented, or how he was representing himself as a Black Latino, as a character of mixed race, because he was being written by a straight white man,
Okay.
who's not Black or Latino or both or anything,
Or tall.
or tall, yeah, sure,
Do we
or
know he's
athletic,
not tall?
He
or
was a short
superhero.
white man.
Ah,
No, he's a straight white man.
Well, they said short.
Oh no, he's a straight white man. So there was some concern for me. Not that I have any problem with straight white men, writing characters, but I do. It does raise some hackles for me when straight white men purport diversity and wanting to reflect difference and wanting to demonstrate an understanding of the variety in our culture, and that's not actually being reflected. Those more nuanced approaches to diversity or not being reflected in the comics or in the characters or their language.
So do you feel like, I'm sorry, I forget the author's name here.
Brian Michael Bendis.
Brian
Was
Michael
the writer.
Bendis. Do you feel that he has successfully represented Miles Morales? Or?
I think Bendis has done. I think Bendis has done a good job insofar as much as he's told a Spider-Man story. Now, the story. There's two levels to it. Like you have, before Miles Morales, you had Peter Parker, and Peter Parker is not. Peter Parker, in a way, is sort of independent of the character of Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is also independent of Peter Parker. But over time, who is Spider-Man if not Peter Parker? And the same thing goes for Miles Morales. So I think that Bendis has done a good job in terms of establishing Miles as his own character, independent of that of the Spider-Man, whether it's a black suit or a red suit or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fine, but I also think that more diversity in the language, in the kinds of languages that these characters are imbued with, how that's being represented or reflected in the comics, I think that's necessary.
May I ask you if you could comment on something I found by Alex Alonso, who is the editor-in-chief of Spider-Man. So, he said, people who say this is a PC stunt miss the point. Miles Morales is a reflection of the culture in which we live. I love the fact that my son Tito will see a Spider-Man swinging through the sky whose last name is Morales. And judging from the response, I can see I'm not alone.
I don't I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't know if it's Alex or Axel.
It is Axel.
Axel, yeah, Axel. He's editor-in-chief at Marvel. I don't know if that's still his job now.
Mm-hmm.
I really haven't kept up with what's really happening at Marvel on the business end, or what I don't know what the hierarchy actually looks like. But no, I think that what he's saying is legitimate. At the end of the day, there is a brown-faced, kid as Spider-Man, and his last name is Morales. And I think that is important on some level. But I think it's also important for us to, grapple with more of those nuanced issues.
To be more than just the face.
Yeah, there's more that goes into, representing or reflecting difference in a comic book. Like I said, that's not to say that Miles or someone like Miles cannot be or cannot have, say, the voice of a Brian Michael Bendis, to an extent that voice in the comic book is authentic. That is Bendis' voice. But is that voice that's being used in the comic book emblematic of the voices of the people that Bendis and others at Marvel are trying to, the experiences that they're trying to validate? Is that their voice?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I would like to comment on something you said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
kind of differentiating between the character of Miles Morales or Peter Parker and the character of, the Spider-Man. Obviously, they're the same, person, the Spider-Man and the young man that's just, living his life.
Right.
But do you think there's something in, when this character dons this suit or, this mask, do you think that readers expect Spider-Man to speak or act or represent himself in a certain way where it might be more difficult for a young man like Miles Morales
Mm-hmm.
to kind of meet those expectations and still be authentically himself?
Well, sure. I think that whiteness has been naturalized in the realm of superheroes and comics, and because of that, there is an expectation that superheroes, or particularly those superheroes who historically have always been white, like a Batman or a Captain America or a Spider-Man, there is expectation that those characters have a certain voice. We can call it a white voice, we can call it a standard voice, but it's not going to be, say, the voice of like ODB or Biggie Smalls or anyone who just who's not Peter Parker.
Mm.
So I think to some extent, yeah. I mean, there are certainly fans out there who think that. There are fans who don't think that you know, blacks or certain groups of people cannot be nerds. Like that is just like those kinds of people are unicorns. They don't exist, or at least they wouldn't translate very well.
Well, I don't know because as soon as you said that, I immediately thought of Urkel,
Well,
who
yeah,
obviously is like an over the top character of what you've stated.
yeah, sure, but Urkel. I mean, Urkel is not necessarily a character anyone takes seriously. Could Urkel be? I mean, yeah, sure, Urkel was a superhero, but he was. It's I don't know. For me, it's a little different.
It's like the character was there, but like the lack of sincerity.
Well, no, I mean, what I'm saying is that Family Matters, as whatever that was, it's still a fictional show. Urkel's a fictional character. I don't necessarily think that a lot of people. Um, I don't see a lot of Urkels. I don't see a lot of Urkels running around. I wouldn't necessarily, call myself Urkel. What
I'm
happened?
sorry. I'm just imagining. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No,
I was
it's
just
fine.
imagining a lot of Urkels running around, like jumping over the chairs and going, "Did I do that?"
that would be weird. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, we can only imagine that, right? Yeah. I don't.
Or can
think-
we?
A stampede of
No,
Urkels. Sorry.
No, I mean it would make a really cool bad horror movie, but I think that Urkel is a fictional character, and as much as he was sort of I guess in a way the face of Family Matters, I don't think that anyone would take a real life person like that seriously.
That's fair.
And there have been tons of studies done on on the implicit biases that go on, and the sort of reasoning or justification as to why some people don't want a black Spider-Man, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that Peter Parker can't be black, or like that the person who Peter Parker is, or the person who Spider-Man is, cannot be a black person. For what reason? Well, because Peter Parker is a nerd, and black people aren't nerds. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking. I remember like the first thing that I was introduced with superheroes, where I fell in love, was Teen Titans.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about all the characters in my head, and Cyborg came to mind. And I think about, and we've had this conversation many times before. For what I'm about to say is that when I think of all the superheroes that are casted as white, they're written as white characters and then casted as white characters, they seem to have more. But every time you see a character that's not white, it's almost like they're afraid to dive into that culture, so they surround themselves with all the stereotypes, like the loud and the booyah and like all of those like. Let me take this handful of stereotypes or things that I think every black person does, and let me make this character that does them so that it's most relatable to what I think they would think.
Sure. Well, I mean, but that's what do you expect? That's what you're going to get when the people involved in, the creation of these characters are not necessarily members of, the communities of the real life equivalents of these characters. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think you're going to get? I mean, a lot of what they're going to do is just going to be an approximation of that culture, of blackness, of whatever culture. Pick your culture.
Pick a culture, any
Yeah,
culture.
pick a culture. If you have no real stake in that culture, if you have no real understanding or any kind of proximity to the culture, you're going to, you're kind of gonna just, fuck it up.
Fair enough.
Or you might not. I mean, some people might just say, yeah, that's okay. And, I would say that based off of the successes of a lot of these things, that a lot of people just take it for what it is. Because I think that, again, there's an expectation that regardless of the appearance of a character, there's a certain parlance, there's a certain demeanor that goes along with being a superhero. The same way that there's a certain parlance and demeanor that goes along with being, in anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Fair enough. Catherine, were you going to say something?
Yes. I was going to. You had found some information about some emails.
Actually,
leaked-
Andre found the information.
Oh, sorry.
We had reached out to Andre ahead of time, as we said in our episode 0, that we wanted to research a little bit about these characters. So I knew very, very little about Miles Morales, other than probably a dozen drunk conversations with Andre at a bar. But other than that, I really had to do some digging around.
Okay.
So we asked Andre for
Simply
help.
said.
So the article that we found is titled, and I quote, "Spider-Man needs to be white and straight, say leaked Sony emails." And this was by Dave McNary from Variety.com. So I fell in love with this article. It's very short when you sent it to me, because I was like, this is perfect to talk about on the podcast. So basically, for our viewers who are unfamiliar, information was disclosed in a massive document of 276,394 private files, emails, and financial data, and they were released by WikiLeaks. And what we found out was that Sony Pictures and Marvel, they declined to comment on their leasing agreement, but this contract that they had was in effect from September of 2011, and they talked about mandatory character traits for Spider-Man, and it just so happens that Peter Parker fits all of them. So we have a list of them here: that he has to be male, he cannot torture anybody, he doesn't kill in defense of himself or others, he doesn't use foul language beyond PG-13, he doesn't smoke tobacco, he doesn't sell or distribute illegal drugs, he doesn't abuse alcohol, he doesn't have sex before the age of 16, he doesn't have sex with anybody below the age of 16, and he is not homosexual unless Marvel portrays that alter ego of him being a homosexual. So that was pretty much the article, but I would love to hear all the things that are running in your brain right now.
Well, I mean, it just, like I said, it just speaks to the normativity of whiteness and straightness. It speaks to the normativity of whiteness and straightness in the media when it comes to superheroes. There's a certain schema involved, and if that is not lived up to, if that standard or those standards are not met, then the character is essentially a non-character. The character can't exist. But what makes this article interesting is that while there are mandatory character traits for Sony when it comes to portraying this character in their films, it did say at the very end that unless this character is portrayed otherwise in the comics, then they can depart from that straight white male alter ego. And now we have a Black Latino Spider-Man. So it's kind of just, it's up to Sony now. The ball's sort of in Sony's park in terms of how they want to actually portray Spider-Man in any future films. I mean, since that article has been released, I mean, even though Miles has been the Spider-Man for maybe a year or two now, or a few years now, Sony and Marvel still agreed to cast Tom Holland as Spider-Man, which I don't have a problem with. I think Tom Holland's going to make a great Spider-Man. But again, there's still, I don't know if it's hesitation, I don't know if it's resistance, but I think that, I think it's going to be a while before we actually see a non-white Spider-Man in
a film.
In a live-action film, yes. And I could be wrong. Who knows?
There was something that, among all the, I guess, like the research and everything that we were discussing earlier, something that said the writing for, I guess, in the comic was done first. Like, they gave the artist the character traits and, everything that they wanted from this character, and then the artist came up with, how they wanted them to look. Mm-hmm. And that interested me, because that's something very particular to, this sort of medium where you have both, a textual and a visual aspect.
Right.
Is there any comment you'd like to make on that? So, just, the way that maybe the writer described this character, how it might have influenced why he looks a certain way and not another, or
Are you talking about as far as Peter, or are you talking about as far as
Miles Morales? Yes.
I think Axel Alonso also said, that it was about time for Marvel to go in a different direction. Not not just with Spider-Man, but with all the characters, that they just needed to diversify. As far as what the character looks like and things like that. I mean, I'm. What do you want me to say again? Like, what is the comment?
I guess these character traits that they were given, the language used to, I guess, describe these character traits that was then given to the artist, how might have it affected the character design? Not just in, how a Black Latino might be presented, but in terms of...
So, I want to, let me be clear, because I don't want there to be any confusion about, or I don't want anyone to have the wrong idea about what I'm saying or what I think about Miles Morales or character traits or anything like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with Miles being the way that he is, because there are a lot of people of a lot of different backgrounds who don't necessarily reflect what we might deem like the least desirable representation of them. Miles doesn't necessarily have to walk around in a hoodie with Timberland boots and Rocket Yankees fitted in order to be, as Brian Michael Bendis has said, in order to be the Spider-Man for kids and adults of color. He doesn't have to do any of those things. The character doesn't have to do those things in order to actually reflect that. But, for me, I think that it would have made a little bit more sense that if Marvel is trying to go in a different direction, if Marvel is trying to validate the experiences of the real life equivalents of people like Miles, it would make a little bit more sense to just complicate that mythos, that Spider-Man history, that Spider-Man storyline with one that departs from that of like a straight white male from Queens. Like, let's just do something different. But that might require changing the language. That might require perhaps having to address some troubling and difficult issues for people in the comic book. But I think that if you're trying to validate and provide a voice for real life equivalents of people like Miles Morales, then yeah, it makes sense to do that. But again, not to say that Black Latinos cannot act and behave like Miles Morales, or to dictate to anyone how to act or behave if they're trying to speak on behalf of any historically marginalized group of people.
Okay. I have, I'd love for you to comment on one more thing from me. So, oh my God, when I was looking this up, it was first reported in August of 2011 by USA Today, and you had people who said that this gives kids a superhero who looks like them, and then people said it was an attempt to be PC, and it was just a total publicity stunt to get more readers, and then some fans were just disappointed that Parker was dead, and it didn't matter who replaced him. They were just going to be, like, pissed off.
Sure.
And then you had conservative talk show host Glenn Beck, who argued that this all happened because of a comment that was made by Michelle Obama about changing traditions. But the one review that really sparked my interest was, his name is David Pepose, P-E-P-O-S-E. He's from Newsarama. And he mentioned, this is not a direct quote, but he said, the biggest victory that Bendis scores is that he makes us care about him, as in Morales.
Okay.
And we care about him quickly. We might only be scratching the surface of what makes him tick, but we're seeing the world through his eyes, and it's similar to Parker's, but it's a lot tougher. So now you read the comics, right? Okay. So based off of like what you've read, did you feel that connection with the character?
What do you mean? What kind of connection?
Well, did you feel that you had to based off of this life similar to Parker's, but a lot tougher, and his background and everything that's mentioned in the comics, did you feel that you cared about him and cared about him quickly, maybe more so than other comics that you've read?
I mean,
I just want to say, I think it's important to differentiate between caring and relating, because I've cared about a lot of characters. I mean, that's the job of an author. If they're writing a story, you got to care about the character. You're not going to keep reading,
Sure.
you know. So, yeah, there's a difference between caring and relating.
Definitely. I mean, listen, we're talking about fictional characters, so like I think care is a little too strong. Relating, I can't say that I necessarily relate with Miles Morales. You know, there were. I mean, he's listen. I'm. We don't have the same experiences.
Well, that's but like in terms of, so if you say that you didn't care about the so have you ever read about a fictional character that you cared about, or do you just differentiate like this is a biography, this is the person who went through some real shit, and holy cow, or and then like this is fictional, so like this sucks, but like whatever because it's not real, or do you have like that caring sense when you read about other superheroes or comics or any other type of fiction, and you just didn't feel that with this?
I don't think it's a matter of I don't think I have to care about the character in order to feel as though this character resonates with me, or this is clearly a departure from what we know and understand to be a Spider-Man story. I didn't feel as though there was a departure from the mythos of Spider-Man. There wasn't that. Other than the fact that Miles was black, there wasn't really any distinguishing markers. From like a narrative standpoint, I didn't get that sense. Hence, writing the thesis, because I felt that listen, if diversity is important, if diversity is what we need more of, then we need to focus on diversity on less superficial levels. We need to focus on diversity when it comes to language. We need to focus on diversity when it comes to culture and how that culture is being represented, and making sure that the people who are in charge of, portraying these cultures and portraying these characters are, members of these cultures. I mean, it just makes sense.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
So does that mean that somebody who, I don't know, like a straight white male, that they can't have a main character in their story that's a person of color or a female?
Oh, no, certainly not. Listen, I don't know. I'm not going to, speculate too much on the mindset of people who are in charge of hiring, writers like Bendis or whatever, and why they choose these writers versus other writers. Why, there are writers who are hired or in charge of writing for certain characters and not like more of like the big time, big league superheroes. I don't know why. Maybe it's a skill thing. Maybe it's just like it was just this guy's turn or this woman's turn thing. I have no idea what it is. But no, I mean, I'm not going to say anyone has exclusive rights to anyone. I mean, they don't. I mean, if I wanted to write a story and I wanted the character to be white because of whatever, then that's my prerogative. But I think that it's a job. It's the jobs of big publishing houses, the main two publishing houses, Marvel and DC. I think it's their job to consider, all those different things that go into one's identity or go into a culture's identity, and to see, or at least to the best of their ability, imbue their characters who are supposed to be reflective of those historically marginalized groups. I think it's important for them to make sure that they imbue their characters with that essence, so that those readers will know, okay, where this character is coming from. And then, with that, hopefully, we have some validation in that. We have some validation of those experiences,
So there's
those realities.
There's got to be that respect, that research, that, they got to do their homework and make sure if they're going to do it, they're going to do it right.
Absolutely, definitely.
Okay, so I know we're really grilling you here.
Sure,
and,
sure.
I'm sorry about that, or
No.
kind of not sorry. I mean, that's why
I'm
we're
not
here.
sorry.
No, sure, yeah.
Something that I'm interested in is in this genre, these superhero comics and graphic novels. In this genre where there's supernatural powers and these beings that are kind of almost like demigods. They're not quite. They're above. They're above just a regular human being in some way.
Sure.
How does it differ, the language used? How does the language used both to describe these people and the people being those who have supernatural abilities or whatever, how does it differ from something like maybe the science fiction, fantasy, magical realism, other genres that deal in the supernatural and people with superhuman abilities?
How does the language of those characters differ? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure there are differences and there are gradations. But I think that that's really up to the authors of these works. Listen, if you're not comfortable in writing in a particular voice and reflecting a certain linguistic reality, then you're just not going to do it. But should that be the end all be all to your story about this character? No, I don't think so. I think that I think there are a lot of authors who are out there who can do that, who are comfortable in writing in that way. It's just a matter of them getting a shot. It's just a matter of them getting tapped to take the wheel
So
when it
it's
comes to
more-
reflecting these characters.
I'm hearing that it's more author specific than genre specific.
Sure, absolutely. I think that like I said, the author is in control. But there are a lot of different authors out there, and it's really a matter of those authors getting their shine, getting that opportunity to reflect that reality linguistically when it comes to this character or that character or another character. But I think that there's still a ways to go when it comes to getting again those main characters, those kind of the Mount Rushmore of superheroes, the people who would those faces, those characters who would be on that mountain. I think that we still got a ways to go. I don't know if that'll happen anytime soon.
So this is a fun kind of little imagination experiment here.
Sure.
How do you think the character of Spider-Man, or whichever Spider-Man you want to talk about, be it Miles Morales or Peter Parker, or just this ego, this alter ego of
Sure.
Spider-Man itself. How do you think Spider-Man would differ if somebody said, like, okay, well, we want this to be a sci-fi novel instead of a sci-fi novel, not in any way visual. How do you think it would change, or do you think it would change?
I mean, it definitely will change. I mean, because a lot of the storytelling in a comic book is visual. I mean, it kind of works in tandem with the text. So if it was just a straight novel, no visual, it would definitely change. I mean, you would have to be able to capture, the Spider-Man swinging from a building. You'd have to be able to capture, swing from building into the chest of a villain with his feet, and you'd have to be able to capture that in a book for however many pages. And I don't know what that would look like.
A lot of adjectives, I think.
No, sure, yeah. There would just be a lot. There would just be a lot going on because in comics there's just a lot. There's just I'm not gonna say there's less work that you have to do as a reader, but it's just different kind of work that you do as a reader. Do I think it would be as interesting? Sure, I think it could be just as interesting. I think maybe you like it more. I don't know. It would be interesting to see. Will it happen? I don't know. Probably
Right,
not.
right. But do you think it would be more difficult or less difficult or about the same to kind of get that authentic culture?
I mean, it could change things. I don't know. I think that the medium controls the message, right? Um, and I think that to some degree, you know, you have characters, who are sort of created with the idea that they would be white, and then they're you get a black actor to play that character, um, but there's really nothing inherently black about the character. But when you actually see the character in a film and hear the character in a film, like it's there, like regardless of whether or not the character was supposed to be black or have any sort of black markers, there's just that blackness is there. It's coming out. Um, so I think that in a film, it's a little harder to get away from, depending on the actor who's behind the character.
That's true.
I think that in a comic, I don't know. I mean, we have Miles, and it's just like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, sure, I guess Miles can talk like that, but should he talk like that? I don't know. In a book, it might be harder. I don't know, or it might be easier. I mean, we have to see it
Okay. Yeah, it was just
or read it.
yeah, it was just something that was on my mind, and just based on some of the things you were saying.
Sure. Like I'm
Yeah.
thinking, when you said that, I'm thinking of Hancock.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Hancock because Hancock was sort of like he was like a proxy for me when it came to my thesis, when it came to Miles, because like Hancock was about like a superhero, a demigod who was sort of he was a bum. He was a black bum who had superpowers, and regardless of all the good that he did as like this superhuman, um, he was chastised because he didn't do things the right way, and I just thought that was really interesting because this character, to go back to like the creation of the character was not supposed to be black. The character was originally white and supposed to be played by like George Clooney or Ben Affleck or Matt Damon or some shit like that. And so Will Smith ended up being Hancock. But it's fascinating to me to see how, regardless of the fact that this is not a movie about a racialized character in any kind of way, there's something about wearing Jordans and, living on the street and just and cursing all the time that just makes the character stereotypically black. And I just thought that was fascinating how that happened. Meanwhile, the film is not. It's not supposed to be about a black superhero doing superheroic things. But that racial element is there.
So do you think that they turned him into like an anti-hero?
Well, I mean,
Tried to create like a different character for him by making him an anti-hero?
I think the character, I think it didn't matter. The character was going to be the character. I think who Hancock was, how Hancock was represented in the film by Will Smith would have been handled the same way by, say, a George Clooney. There would have been that edge about him. It may have been like more like a, like think John Wayne or think what's his name, Clint Eastwood. There just would have been like that sort of chip on the shoulder, like fuck you, guy. Like I don't give a fuck about you, and I'm just gonna do whatever I want. Like that would have been there, but it's just different.
Okay.
It's just different when it. I mean, to me, it's just different seeing a black guy do that as opposed to like, Ben Affleck do it or something like that.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
so I think at this point we're going to move on to our next activity. And now it's time for Teacher's Corner.
I love that. I love that little intro. We're gonna keep doing that. That doorbell voice. It just makes me smile so much. Okay, so yeah, this is Teacher's Corner. This is the part where we are going to ask Andre to give advice either for teachers, helping teachers teach, or students helping students learn. This is where we center things back into the classroom, and we're going to turn to Andre to tell us some things about maybe the composition classroom? Give some tips.
So I'm new. I'm new to a lot of all this stuff. I'm new to teaching. I wasn't formally trained in teaching. I didn't get a formal education in teaching. A lot of what I understand about teaching is based off of experience and having to think about my experiences as a student and what my teachers did in retrospect. So I don't know. I'm learning all the time. I'm still, I came in one way. And during that time, during my first semester teaching, I felt like every day I was constantly doing something different, or I was constantly trying to get better or reinvent myself because whatever I did before, in my mind, just didn't seem to be working. So every day I'm always trying to get better or get to whatever the pinnacle is, I guess, of teaching, what teaching should be or what it should look like in my classroom. Second semester, I feel a lot more confident. There's way more confidence for me in the classroom. But even still, I still feel as though I was working toward something. I just started to sort of I guess, in a way, invest in loss. There's only but so much you're going to get done.
Right.
You're only going to be so good in the beginning.
Ain't that the truth?
Huh?
I said, ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So you're just, you have to sort of submit to learning. And that's just sort of what I've done and what I've been doing. And I'm sort of treating this summer, before I start working full time, as as an off-season sort of training camp for myself. I'm just consuming a ton on teaching. I'm consuming a ton on, I've always written notes after my classes. Some days I didn't do it.
Oh, that's excellent, though.
Yeah,
like a diary?
Yeah, I just...
That's a really good idea.
I just to sort of this is where I was at. Just to make sure that I wasn't losing it.
This is the day I lost my mind.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would write.
Yeah, because it's a lot. It's a lot to have to be, the same person in some ways to a lot of different people. And at the same time, a different person to a lot of different people.
Sure.
But I'm just one person.
Right.
There's just a lot of. I feel very fragmented.
That's interesting to me, just because our theme is superheroes. It's almost like you have to put on that super suit and
You have to kind
Super
of
suit.
Yeah, you have to be a different person in the classroom. As we talk all the time. We talk shit about classmates and students, and we commiserate with one another about education and what this space is like. But at the end of the day, these people are here to learn. This is a place of learning. This is higher education. So I'm, that is I get it now. That's the goal. People need to learn. Not everyone's going to learn, and not everyone learns the same way. So how can I be more dynamic?
Well, that was the question I was going to ask you.
What?
Something similar to that.
How to be more dynamic? I don't know. People tell me when I'm in the classroom that I'm dynamic, and I'm like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Because I don't know. I'm just me. Mm-hmm. There isn't an idea of who I should be in my head. There's just me.
Right. And
so I'm just trying to be the version of me that I need to be in the classroom for X amount of kids.
Okay.
So, I don't know, be yourself, I guess? I don't know.
That's adorable.
That is, it is.
Be yourself, but, be your professional self.
Be yourself, but don't be a dick.
I'm not going to say that. Listen, you can't change.
You've been a dick in the classroom?
Well, dick is subjective.
Well, that is subjective.
Are you a subjective dick?
I think that...
I feel like there's a "that's what so-and-so said"
yeah,
there somewhere.
There's definitely
Loaded.
There's definitely a phrasing problem going on there. But I think that...
this fly has been here the whole damn podcast.
Yeah.
We've kept him out of the salsa, though.
Yeah, where's the spider man to take care of that shit? What was I saying? Yeah, you know, you are who you are, even in the classroom. You can't change that.
I guess
And
kind of be the version of you that's going to help others learn.
you kind of just have to submit. You have to submit. Like, you have to submit to the students, and you have to sort of submit to yourself. Because I feel like when you come into a new role, I feel like there is this idea that you have to be someone you're not.
Like an egotistical.
No, not
No?
not an egotistical. Like, you just have to be better than you are. And perhaps you do have to be better than you are, depending on like what your skill set is or what your performance level is. But I find that I am myself in the classroom, but just a teaching self.
Okay.
I really like
there's
that.
there's really no. I mean, if any of you were to come into my class, I don't think you would see me necessarily as a different person, but rather just a person who is trying to impart something.
Fair enough.
I like that. That's encouraging. That's encouraging to me because I'm still working on my master's. I haven't taken that step yet, so that makes me feel good. I can be the same spaz that I always am as long as people are learning. That brings me to another question, though. From that seems to be advice, for teachers. There's the teachers helping teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would like to know, since this is summer and there may be some people listening who are, they're about to start their college career, freshmen just coming in, their first university, composition class, freshman comp.
Run.
No,
you can't run from it.
What is your advice to a student entering that freshman composition classroom so that they can get the most out of it?
No, I don't. It's hard because, I didn't come into college, a perfect student.
Well, I don't think anyone does.
No. Yeah, I don't think anyone does. But, I was very much so the kind of student who just didn't give a fuck about doing his work and coming to class. I played sports. I played football here at Kane. So, I had all my football buddies, and and some of us took the same classes, but there just seemed to be a general, there was just a dearth of care. There was no sense of importance or urgency, or diligence when it came to anything. I just didn't care. Why was that? Probably because I didn't go to college because I wanted to go to college. I went to college because my parents made me go to college. Maybe it was because my parents, having not gone to college themselves or graduated from college themselves, couldn't necessarily speak to me or talk to me with any kind of experience about what it would be like going to college. So I was just very new to the space. So what I would tell a bunch of incoming freshmen, just be patient. Just be patient with yourself. Be patient with your professor. Just be patient with the experience, because regardless of the university, whether it's a community college or Kane or Rutgers or University of Texas Austin, it's going to be an experience, and figuring out how to navigate this space is going to be a nightmare. There are going to be times where you just don't even want to, because fuck, why should I have to walk all the way across campus? Why should I have to get on a fucking bus in order to handle this business when it comes to like my registration or something like that? Why should I have to do all these things that should just be taken care of because everyone else is supposed to be an adult? And that's fine. I think that's fine. I think we just have to be honest with that, with those feelings, and we just need to work through them. We need to talk to people when we start to feel overwhelmed, because it's important. College is important. It's important for people to learn. It's important for people to it's important for people to be educated, and that takes a lot of that can look a lot of different. That has a lot of different looks to it. It just, people just need to be educated. They just need to just know better so that they can do better. And not everyone's going to want to do that, but what can you do? It's not my, it's, you know, as important as it is for teachers to be able to encourage and inspire their students, there's only so much one can do. So,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That was very heartfelt. I could feel the.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess maybe I don't know.
I don't know. Shit. No, I'm just kidding.
I might be.
All right, so we're gonna move on to our final activity for tonight's podcast, and Andre had requested we asked him what game he wanted to play, and he said he wanted to play tic-tac-toe. Now, we can't just play regular tic-tac-toe. One, for two reasons: because this is AJOS, and two, because you can't hear tic-tac-toe. So, what we're going to do is Catherine and Andre are going to play each other in a game of tic-tac-toe.
Oh, boy.
But it's going to be storytelling tic-tac-toe. So what's going to happen is, Andre, you will be X's, Catherine, you will be O's.
Oh, yeah.
They will decide who's going to go first. Every sentence that they have to say a sentence with every move they make on the tic-tac-toe board. Okay, and we'll take some pictures of this and throw them up on Twitter. They have to say a sentence that begins with either X or O. Now, you can use sounds, you can use expressions, you can use cop-outs because X might be tough. I don't think you want to talk about xylophones forever.
Xenomorphs.
Xenomorph, yeah.
There you go.
Xenomorphs playing the xylophone.
Also
That's
X-rays.
right up my alley. Yeah.
So,
Right.
You can also say things like explained this or exactly as well. And then Catherine has the option to go oh or ooh, depending on how she wants to start a sentence, or if she wants to be a ghost. Ooh. Right. So we have some options here. So I'm going to hold the board. They are going to tell a story. The winner will put their winning mark and cross it, and the loser will say one more sentence and finish the story. The goal here is to try to get one story that flows into each other. So let's come up with a theme for the story. It is summer, finally. So your theme for the story has something to do with summer. Okay. So Andre, since you're our guest, would you like to go first?
Okay.
Okay, so whenever you draw your... I said you were X's, right?
I guess I'm X's.
Okay,
yeah.
so you pick a space, and then you start the story with a sentence.
Okay.
All right, and I will commentate.
Excuse me, I just farted in my swimming trunks.
Oh, geez, that smells awful. Why did you do that?
Catherine picked the center. Andre got bottom right.
Exactly what I want to know.
Andre's close.
Whoa. Obviously, you should know why the whys and hows of your own bodily functions, sir.
Catherine blocked him.
Except I've been drinking way too much tonight. So, no.
Andre blocked Catherine.
Okay, but what exactly were you drinking that could make you lose such control of your sphincter and the air loosing itself from it?
You can't put it down until you say a sentence.
Oh, I have to say this.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Andre's about to win.
Exit stage left is what I've been drinking.
All right, so Andre has one tic-tac-toe. Now Catherine's going to finish the story.
Exit stage left. That's that new tequila.
Oh.
Oh.
You have to start with O.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh, exit stage left. That's that new tequila that they brew behind the stage at magic shows. I understand why you're farting so much.
And there you have it. So Andre is our tic-tac-toe winner. And thank you, Andre, so much for coming on the show.
It's been fun and informative.
And real and also
mildly
silly.
spicy, medium spice.
It's been medium. hanging
It's
out
been
with you today.
medium hanging out with you.
Oh, excellent.
So adequately medium.
So you will have another podcast to you at the end of July. This is our June edition. So we are signing off here. We're going to put a lid on it. Andre,
All right.
thanks again so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Check us out at jarofsalsa_pod. That is our Twitter handle. You can also access this YouTube and SoundCloud, whatever your preference is. We hope to be on iTunes in July. Anything you want to say, Catherine?
Just thank you for listening. Thank you again, Andre.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Like I said, we learned a lot. We had a lot of fun. You whooped my butt at tic-tac-toe. And salsa.
Salsa.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.